The feet change position, so they go into a T shape.
You should train using heavier ones.
Yeah.
Without them being actually very heavy.
They start to learn how to swing. They do this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
These akaras, it's almost impossible to find them if you don't have anybody who can search for them.
That's
because
right.
they are completely behind closed doors.
The guy picks this up, so that's there, and he picks up one jewelry onto his arm.
Yeah.
The flowing Dutchman, yeah, shuffle on the production, like this, yeah, like this, yeah. The flowing Dutchman, yeah, the flowing Dutchman.
Boom, and welcome to another video of the Flowing Dutchman. And look where I am. I'm here with the one and only master, Paul Wolkowinski.
Hello there.
And this is actually interesting because I have seen and been very much inspired by Paul's videos when I first started to get introduced to the swinging arts. And he was also my big inspiration when I went to India for the first time, because Paul has gone to India before and his videos are amazing about the old wrestling culture in India. Well, if you see my videos, you know now what that looks like. But it's all due to this man over here sharing his content and traveling around the world and teaching people for over 10 years,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
About all these swinging arts. So in this video today, we're going to talk about a little bit about the meals.
The beginnings of the meals, yeah, and,
Right.
and the technique.
The technique of the meals.
Yeah.
Because the meals come from Iran.
Iran or Persia.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a little congestion there over what is exactly the difference between the meals and the clubs and the Indian clubs, and I think we'll make another video of what the exact differences are really, but there is a slightly different technique from the Iranian style of training than the Indian style of training.
That's right, yeah.
So it'd be fun to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so just as an introduction to meals, let's go back 2,500 years. Cyrus the Great, the legend has it, wanted his army to train with equipment that was about 2 to 3 times heavier than their swords and shields and spears.
And Cyrus the Great?
Cyrus the Great was a commander and basically a king or emperor of Persia.
Persia.
Yeah.
And back then, was Persia still like the same as it is right now, or was
No,
it
the border moved a lot. So I mean, it bordered with India many times, and there were a lot of different peoples that used to travel around that area, because a lot of Iran, modern day Iran, is desert.
Sure.
And that going towards India, it's still desert in some places, although it does change. The geography does change.
Right.
Anyway, so I mean, the sort of the concept was, you've got to think back to the sword, which I'm going to demonstrate with this one here, and you've got to imagine that this is a shield. So basically, if I've got a shield that basically covers my body completely here, it's round. So how do I strike? I have to move the shield out of the way, strike, and then recover. So, and you've got to think of those armies basically in those days fighting hours on end. I mean, it wasn't sort of, it wasn't rifles and machine guns. It was literally full contact. So the concept of this now, so if I go through this movement again, so I mean, you're going to strike, and the strongest part of the strike is going to be at the end of the tip of the sword. But I mean, we want to build the shoulders up, so that the movement then, if I put this down, is from here, there's the strike, and the meal comes into the position of the shield. Right. So if I pick the other one up now, so the concept behind this is, so basically the right hand now is going to strike. So there's the strike. My right shoulder comes forward. The left side now is ready to strike.
Right, and I see you're doing the
footwork.
The footwork as
so
well.
now, so with the footwork, my body weight is on my left foot, and I'm going to now strike with the right meal. Body weight changes over, and now my body weight is completely on my left side.
Right.
ready to strike again.
So you're using the positioning of the hips as well to create extra force.
Correct.
Right.
This movement that we're doing at the moment is a 4 count. So you count like this. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And the feet change position, so they go into a T shape, and the body weight is on that foot. The other foot just slides across gently. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's interesting.
And so consequently, the training that the army was doing at the time was to basically build their shoulders up and endurance-wise. And I mean, this still exists in the modern day Zurkhaneh to this day.
Right, because Zurkhaneh is the Persian wrestling.
Well, it's the wrestling version, but it was also the Zurkhaneh were clandestine clubs, if you like, because Iran was invaded so many times over the centuries.
Right.
Some of the oldest Zurkhaneh you can see, for instance, there's some in Shiraz, there's some in Tehran, and in obviously other cities that you cannot find where the entrance is because it's all hidden. And the idea of that was that the men would practice their martial arts because they were banned from training by the invaders. But they decided the story goes that the Zurkhaneh was created for them to be able to continue with their martial arts and this type of training. One example of a Zurkhaneh that I went into in Shiraz was a staircase no wider than your shoulders, and it spins round in this direction here. You could not fight on there.
No.
There would be no way that you could actually do a battle. And when you go down into what you think is the basement. And when you come into the Zurkhaneh, there's the Gaud, which is the training area, and then there's 2 stories and a hole in the ceiling where the daylight comes through.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and it's really quite magical.
That does sound a little bit familiar to the Indian akharas, but because what I notice is whenever I go to these akharas, it's almost impossible to find them if you don't have anybody who can search for them.
That's
because
right,
they are completely behind closed doors.
Yep.
And it's almost it's just hidden.
Yeah.
Similar as maybe the
the Zurkhaneh is the same. Yeah.
Would you say that the Indians have that for the same reason?
I'm not sure. This was a story that was related to me when I was actually in Iran about this. That there were clandestine clubs where the locals could practice their military training, basically. And it's meals, the kabadeh, the dynamic stretching, the Shena board. And another, I think it's well worth mentioning that the Shena board, because you've got to consider again that Iran is desert, like here in West Australia. In fact, it's sand.
Right.
So the story goes that basically the military would put their swords down on the sand and do push-ups, so their hands didn't sink into the ground. And hence the Shena was born. And also the other very interesting, the other interesting thing about that is that the feet.
There we go.
The feet. So your hands are not going to sink into the ground because you're on a sword or the Shena. And then the feet, the split push-up comes from the position that the feet have to be sideways on. So you go forward like this. As you push up, so basically the push-up would be here. The heel and the toe is on the ground, and you don't go up on your toes like we do in a Western push-up.
Because of the sand.
Yeah, because your foot's going to stay on the top of the sand; it will float.
Oh, right.
As opposed to because if you imagine if you did a push-up in the sand, toes first, your feet would go into the sand.
Yeah, that's true. You just dig holes.
Yeah. So there's logic in why particularly the split push-up, why it happens is in that specific way, and you see them all with their legs intertwined. When there's a lot of them in the Gaud doing push-ups, and because that's the way they do them. They've got the split, I mean, there's lots of variations on the
Sure.
Schenner, but I mean, this is the main one that's done in the Zurkhney. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you were talking about the meals with the 4 count, which also means
Yes.
that there are.
So once in the Zurkhney, the 4 count's done for maybe 10-15 minutes,
Right.
and then the beat changes and they go into a 2 count, which means that the both meals move at the same time, because here you've got one static, and so one
other
is
one is
static,
swinging.
one moves.
Yeah.
In the 4 count, the feet go into shoulder width position, and
4 or 2? 2.
no, this is
4.
2 counts. So I mean, remember the differences.
Yeah.
1,
That's 4.
2,
Right.
3, 4.
Right.
Right. Now 1, 2, 1, 2. It's much faster. It's
And
double time.
This stance is also more similar to the Indian Geordie.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, basically, the shoulders are driving, and I think it's worth pointing out here that the meal technically takes off, and it moves first to the back. I'll turn around for this. So it moves up to the back. The hand follows the meal. The shoulder turns, and the elbow is last. So it's
Yep.
meal, hand, elbow, and then to return, the elbow comes first, then the hand, and then the meal at the back. So it's there.
That's so cool. This has less similarities with the sword movement, right? Because I always thought about sword moving. It's also eventually you have to move in the sagittal plane, or at least you see a lot of
well,
people.
now you can move it with your shoulders at 45 degrees, which would be probably a lot more likely. Yeah. But I mean, if I was to bring this meal forward now and actually go for a strike, I mean, you would never get up from that if it was done to a person.
No,
I mean, even with a lightweight meal.
that's true. That's true.
So you're stopping, and I think that part of the exercise is, I mean, you're swinging. So you lift the meal up. Again, let's just go through it up here. So you lift the meal up here. You swing it, rotate your shoulders, and then you control it by bringing it down, which is like the gada, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's very similar.
You have to control the swing down. So I mean, you're working your arm in reverse, bringing it to a standstill, and then going again.
Right, very interesting. Well, I'll try it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's just going black now.
Yeah, there we go. So I have done it before, but your footwork is a little different than what I'm. So you first turn inward with.
Yeah, so your
feet
your
going down.
right arm's going to swing.
Do you rest them against your chest?
Ideally not, but when you start with, yes.
Right. And then you swing, you stamp, and then you rearrange the other foot. So your weight is completely on one
Yes.
leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So push up more, push up more, push the meal up more. That's it. So it swings. So your recovery's got to be very careful. Pull down there. It's sharp pull down. Smaller steps, smaller steps. You just want to turn your spine. Even smaller. That's it. That's it, that's it, that's it.
Oh, so it's just basically moving the heel out
Yes,
and then
yeah.
moving the heel in.
I mean,
So
you're
it's
right.
almost similar to a pivot, right? Where you're
It is a
kind of
pivot. It is a pivot, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it is a pivot.
It is a
Yeah.
pivot. I thought it was more like a step.
Yeah, no, it's very often misunderstood because basically your spine is the central, is the core of the turn,
Yeah, it's a 90 degree pivot.
and you're swinging the meal around and if you think about it, as you swing the meal, you're rotating the meal around the spine and avoiding the shoulder blades. That's why you're turning your shoulders through.
Yeah, because otherwise you
Yeah.
hit yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull down more to your waist. 2, 1.
Would you say that
Two.
turning the upper body is still allowed?
Yes, yeah, no, you have to turn your upper body when you're doing this. You don't keep your shoulders still, for sure. Whoops, it's gone again.
And you told me that it is only the inside version, right? So they swing only like this,
Yes.
not the opposite way.
Yeah, no, because I mean I've messed around with the meals and found variations, and it's basically restricted by the fact that you've got another guy standing right beside you with a pair of meals, so the swing has to be, very very close together. But I mean you can swing them in a number of different ways.
Sure.
For example, so I'm going to do it slow. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now reversing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Then outward 1, 2, 3, 4. Parallel to the left. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then now you can also do what I really like with this is to do what I call a 3 count. So, and that goes straight from a 2 count to a 3 count. So you start from here. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1,
Right.
2, 3.
I'm not sure if I get that with the counting, because why would that be 3? Because you're moving them at the same time.
Yeah, the two are coming across together at the same time. So let's do it again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 together.
So
It's individual, together.
So could I try something?
Sure.
Just 1 second. Get this one. So, all right. If I get it, if I get this, then you'd say that this would also be a 2 count swing.
Yes, that's a 2 count.
So this would be 1, 2.
No, you've got to swing the meals behind your back. That's it. Okay, so you're going inward, together. As far as meals are concerned, there is a way of picking them up. So you're standing behind them, you put 1 foot forward, you can click them together, some people do, some people don't, and then swing them back and step back,
Right.
and then rest them on your shoulders. Many of them rest up here, and others will rest them in this kind of position.
Yeah, the first one looks more similar to the Jori.
Jori, yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I mean, basically the meal hand should not be up here.
No.
Because one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they hold their hands at right angles to the floor with their forearm, and everything's firing my arms right now. Yeah.
Very
So
tough.
if I put them down here, it's quite relaxed.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference about this. And even when the ideal is to swing them with no body contact. So in this position here, that's the position where the meal should be. So what's happening here is that the hand is the pinky's underneath the pommel, and the meal is actually resting in the soft part, which is called the perlicue, between your thumb and the forefinger. These fingers are pulling to hold the meal upright. But basically it's an angle and it's quite relaxed. And if you need to touch your shoulder, it's fine. Yeah.
You see them do that with the heavier ones.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why they have a button pommels, because you need to have that sort of grip. And and that's so. And I mean, with these now, I mean, it's a good, like with the Jori, it's a good idea to just keep your head slightly back. So when you swing through,
right,
so you don't clonk yourself in the ear, which is easily done.
Or
on the head,
just on the side of the eye. I had that happen before.
Yeah.
Right.
should have a try.
Yeah, sometimes in India they sometimes in India you'll see them really they go like this behind the back and they're like
Yes, yeah. Well, because they're really fat, the jewelry.
oh.
No, because there's two different kinds of jewelry, thin and fat.
I thought you were talking about the wrestlers.
No, I'm not talking about the wrestlers, I'm talking about the jewelry themselves.
The jewelries.
So there's two different types of jewelry. There's thin ones, fat ones, and nail jewelry. There's three different types.
Yeah, true.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Give those a try. So, feet to rotate. So let the meal turn the body through. That's it. Push up a little bit more so it falls faster. That's it. And pull down to stop it moving. Smaller steps. Just as rotating the spine. Yeah.
Great. Let's try the bigger ones. What do these weigh?
There's 7 at the moment. There were 9, but I had to take some weight off them because I was finding it because I had a shoulder surgery and I had to take some of the weight off. They were a bit too.
This is the weight that you took off.
Yeah, I actually drilled into it a bit and took some weight out. Yeah,
Interesting.
they originally were 9.
Right.
I still call them 9s, but they're not.
Inside information here, guys. All right. Yeah. Oh, they look very good.
They pull really nicely.
Oh yeah. They're also a very good way to train using heavier ones
Yeah.
without them being actually very heavy.
Mm. Yeah, very good.
That's not the proper way to move.
No, it's okay. So one of the ways that you can unload them is that way. Yeah, that's the correct way to do it. Yeah.
Let's have you talk about that.
Yeah, so I have to sort of do a sort of bit of a swing up with these because
Yeah, they're big.
yeah, they are. Maybe we'll just get my grip right.
Beautiful. Yeah, so that's interesting. Have you ever seen them pick them up like that before? The same way? So starting there, coming behind and then pulling them over?
Yeah, no, I have seen that actually. Yeah. But most of them, in the competitions, they have to swing them up.
Yeah.
You know, like in the jewelry competitions, they have to stand on bricks and swing them up just to get into the competition. That's a. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So when they swing the jewelry up, they stand on brick blocks.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And that's if you can't swing them up, you can't take part in the competition.
Huh. That's right.
That's the rule.
Yeah, because otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not capable of swinging them. So, which I thought was it's a very good way of isolating the the wannabes into the true sort of the pros, if you like. You've got to have to have practiced this and You know, we're not going to let you take part in a competition unless you can show that you can do it.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Interesting.
Because I did a whole night of competition with Prati the last time I was there. You know, it started at whatever it was, 7 o'clock in the evening, and at 2 o'clock in the morning it finished. You know, and the final part of the competition, there were 4 sizes of jewellery,
Right.
and the last pair that was out there were 50 kilos each. Massive.
50 each.
Yeah, and I mean they couldn't swing them up because the weights kept falling off, so they had to forgo that. But basically, then you know, because then they go through that whole loading thing, you know, where the guy picks this up, so that's there, and he picks up one jewelry onto his arm.
Yeah.
He glues his hand into position with the whatever it is, that sort of stuff, because they actually glue their hands to the jewelry.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called. And then the other jewelry is held up high and lowered down onto the body from the other side by a helper. Yeah, which is an amazing way of getting them up. Yeah.
Especially when they get very tall, because they just become so.
They're so big. Yeah, no, they're so big.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean they stand chest height, so these are a little bit short. I mean, but some of the longer ones sort of stand my chest height, basically here.
Yeah, for mine it's more belly button.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it's still a sort of no, it's very challenging what they do with the jewellery, there's no doubt about that. But like it is with some of the very, very big meals that are swung. But again, you know, in the traditional Zulkane, you don't really see that. You know, there might be 4 to 6, I mean, this is 4.5 kilos, this meal. This is great for doing a longer set. Because you can swing it in 4 count, 2 count. And the other very interesting swing I think that is well worth mentioning as far as this is concerned is the armpit swing. So when young boys start to learn how to swing, they do this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they migrate to a 2 count. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, like that.
Yeah, well, basically, it's, at least in my mind, swing is just this movement, but then adding the momentum.
The momentum, yeah. So the momentum around the spine.
Yeah.
So around the spine.
Because you're moving the body almost 180 degrees. So actually, you're dipping it backwards.
Yes.
And then pulling it backwards.
Yeah.
But there's this swing in between.
So, and I think again, so one of the most important things about this is that the meal should travel up to here roughly, so that it drops into the swing and then you recover.
Yeah, that's very different than jewelry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very different to jewelry. Yeah. So if you're going to strike and you want to strike very, very hard, you're not going to do this. You want to do that. So I mean, you're going to lift the sword up high. So consequently, the meal should lift up, swing, and crash down. But you're gonna stop that crash by turning your hand underneath the meal, so your hand travels down first. Then so you know, first of all, it's the, again as before, the elbow, the hand, the meal comes down here to stop the fall. But I mean, if you were to extend your arm forward, and this is where there's a great similarity between, for example, an Indian club swing, where we've got the same movement. So if I go inwards, so there's the movement here, and if it was a sword, I could do that. But in Indian clubs, we now swing on the frontal plane, but it's a sword movement.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It uses the same muscles.
Same muscles, and you can reverse it. So I mean, you know, you can undercut like this, and you can cut down, or you can cut at an angle. I suppose you could do. I mean, all sorts. I mean, I'm no swordsman, so I mean, it's but I would imagine that, and that's the way from when I've met people who do sword work. That's what they talk about. Then there's a huge similarity, and basically the balance of these things represents the sword. So going back to the days of the Raj, it was a lot cheaper for the British Army to provide something like this as it was to provide steel swords which would have been brought in from England in those days.
Right.
So there would have been a massive expense. And you know, they were called Indian.
Interesting still that the club culture that is now starting to be revived in India.
Yes.
It's mostly based around wood, because wood is relatively easy to make and cheaper for them.
Yeah.
But it's very expensive for us to make in
Well,
the
it's
Western
very expensive.
countries.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So we have all the steel ones and they have all the wooden ones. Which
Yes.
is still happening. So
It is still happening, which is really, really, really strange. Yeah.
Always wanted to have a solid foundation for your heavy club work? Look no further. Heavy Club 101 is designed to teach you the absolute fundamentals of a heavy club, also known as a mukdar, a clubbell, a bulava, or a short gada. It will teach you fundamental presses, pulls, hip thrust, swings, and flows. After completing Heavy Club 101, the path towards mastery of the heavy clubs will be revealed. Will I see you on the other side? Join now on DutchFlowAcademy.com.
boom! Thank you for your attention. It's greatly appreciated. If you like the content, please consider to share, like, and subscribe to my channel. If you want to see similar videos, you can see them over here. If you're interested in learning more from me as a coach, I've got online courses on DutchFlowAcademy.com. Keep flowing, Ram Ram.